What's up, everyone? Yeah, it's been a bit of a wild couple of weeks actually, but a couple of us have just gotten back from Hamburg, amongst the crazy things that went down there. So we had the ColorCloud event, which was freaking awesome. So I'd like to give a shout out to Mats and his team because, in my opinion, they smashed it. Right? Like I think this is going to be one of the three big conferences or the three different conferences you're going to want to do next year. Right?
Nice.
I think they absolutely killed it. And then ColorCloud, and then also experiencing the sophistication of German riots, which was weird. I don't know how else to explain this, man. Like sitting at a coffee shop, and it's like, okay, bunch of people going shopping, and then we'll have a casual riot, and then go back to shopping. It was odd. Anyway, a bunch of armed guards and stuff. So it's been a pretty wild week, I guess. How are you guys?
Well, so Chris was still in Hamburg when this event that he's describing occurs. Obviously, I had left. But it reminds me, hearing him talk about this reminds me, for those of you who are trying to time this, we're recording less than 2 days after the massive power outage in Spain, Portugal, Andorra, and southern France, right? So for those of you who were not up on the news on this, 100% of the power went out in these regions, right? So I had family and friends from outside around the world texting me, "Are you affected?" And I'm like, dude, 100% of the people here are affected. Nobody is unaffected by this. There is no power. And this went on from probably around 12:30 in the afternoon to I think we got our power back around maybe 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night in our neighborhood in Valencia. But one of the things that really amused me about this, now, first of all, I should say that in a way it was scary because, we barely had, you had to kind of walk around and try to find a good cell signal and you could maybe get some news. I was pretty much living off of texts from Donna Sarkar, far, far away from me, telling me what was happening in the country that I live in. But later, I read the New York Times, and the New York Times talked about there was chaos and there were long lines at the ATMs, and it was just madness. And my experience of this is that when the Spanish experience a catastrophic power outage, you know what they do? They go out for lunch and drinks.
Yes.
So the whole of Valencia was packed with people just sitting on terraces, eating cold food, unless the restaurant had a gas stove, right? And drinking agua de Valencia and Aperol Spritz and wine and haggling with one another because most people didn't have enough euros in their wallet. We paid our bill mostly with euros, and then we offered we can pay the rest in dollars, pounds, Romanian lei, or Swedish kroner. And they were totally cool with this, right? So
wow.
My experience here is that at least the Spanish people, and at least in Valencia, are the coolest weatherers of catastrophic power outages in the world. We just all went drinking, and it was a great day.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Because it was just a day.
Yeah, it was just like the same thing that would have been happening is going to happen, except for the food will be cold instead of hot.
But if it was 2 days or 3 days, nobody's got food in their home, including ourselves. Nobody has like any sort of cash. It's like,
this experience has turned me into a bit of a hoarder, though. Like, I spent all of my euros, and then yesterday I went to the ATM, and instead of taking €100 out to replenish my wallet, I took €200 out, replenished my wallet, and stuck €100 in my suitcase, just in case. And I'll do this every month for the next several months, just in case.
Yeah, and you'll not have an experience for another 5 years like this now.
right.
Exactly, exactly.
Guys, I just have to tell you this. In South Africa, this power outage, we call it load shedding, right?
Yeah.
And they literally go without power for like days and days and days at a time.
Wow.
Everyone's got Jennies. So Andrew, my advice to you, bro, get a generator, man, and just like get one of those portable ones and a can of gas and run around with it on your back, and then you can just like fire up your laptop with.
Can I also please have a blowtorch attached to this just in case?
Okay. Oh, flamethrowers, just in case of flamethrowers, like zombies. Yeah, zombies. Yes. Okay. Yeah, dude, it makes total sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But how does such a large region go out or lose power? Like, what, 3 or 4 countries affected?
So I haven't read I haven't read the news today, right? Like, I think that they're still researching this, but the theories that have been floated are that, there was some sort of electric, like, fault in the European power grid. Another theory, of course, I think that you have to at least investigate the possibility of cyber attack,
Yes.
especially given the fact that Spain is, I believe, NATO's lowest defense budget member. So, I don't want to pontificate about the politics of this, but I feel like if anyone were going to test NATO's resolve to defend members with low military budgets, a cyber attack on Spain might be something that they would consider. So I think that they have to consider that. Anna read a really interesting theory on this yesterday. That Anna, take it away. What did you find?
Yeah. So the theory was, even though it was proclaimed as the cause, from like this expert who's saying that Spain has enhanced their green energy supply and farms and everything over the winter and after the floods and stuff. And on that day, it was sunnier than before for this particular supply. And the network accumulated so much energy that when it was pumped into the network, it couldn't handle it. Like their contingency rules were simply not high enough, which caused the whole network to go into overload, and which caused some of the nodes to stop, which caused most of the nodes to stop. And because all of the electrical grid is kind of connected, this is what happened. So even though they immediately increased those limits, or got rid of the extra energy, the butterfly effect was about 24 hours.
Basically, we needed a really big surge protector for the whole country, and we, they just don't make them. They just don't make them that way, I guess. But
it's a theory. It makes sense.
Yeah.
It comes with a lot of logical arguments and like technical details that I wouldn't know how to tell you, because it tells you exactly how these systems work, and that it's much easier to actually stop them, pause them, than get them to move faster, to include all of that energy that was produced yesterday. I guess unless there are sufficient studies and the limits are set high enough, I'm imagining we'll have the same issue in like July, right? But of course, everybody's studying this so that it doesn't happen.
That's why I'm putting money in my suitcase.
It's crazy.
Correct.
Anyway.
What's been going on? So since you've obviously been to Cloud Conference, you launched the Center for Trustworthy AI, the Bravos Forum. I heard that Chris has got a new job. Where are you working nowadays, Chris?
So now it is official. I'm with Cloud Lighthouse and ANS. So I'm splitting my time now, which is very cool.
Awesome, man.
I get to do the fun things and then the other things. No, to be fair, it's been interesting, but I think what it gives me is a very interesting perspective on, number one, the wider audience that we deal with at Cloud Lighthouse, because it is much wider and it is much more vast and it is much more deep. And then the kind of state of play in the UK from an MSP perspective, so like what it is that people are actually thinking, and being extremely close to the customers, which I like, right? Like I've worked something out in the last sort of 3 years. I am very much about like being on the ground. I love being in front of customers, and I love trying to figure stuff out. And I think like it's quite an interesting mix, But yeah, it's been pretty awesome. So I'm very, very finally happy to have this official. I will tell you that now, because it's been too long.
Nice.
We are too, Chris, especially me.
Chris was the first person outside, apart from Anna, that I ever even discussed starting Cloud Lighthouse with. And then, it all sort of went from there, because Chris, I talked with him, and then later that day we were together. It was that evening, we had gone out for drinks. We decided, let's let's call Mark Smith. So we called Mark Smith, and that's how this all kind of took off. But
and then he went to bed.
And then I went to bed.
You had a nap. You had a naplet.
No, I had a nighttime nap. I had an all-night nap. A naplet.
A naplet. Yes,
naplet.
It's when you take some time to have a sweet little sleep wherever you are. You can be anywhere, dude. Like on a bench, on a chair, in a bed. It doesn't matter. And that's a naplet, bro. So you did that, and it was very sweet.
I had my naplet in my hotel room, and it lasted all night.
That's okay, dude.
I'm a very responsible conference goer.
You are not a responsible conference goer. Neither am I. So let's just be clear here.
I mean, to be fair, in Vegas at Power Platform Conference last year, I was an incredibly responsible conference goer. I was in bed almost every night by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. I was up. I did the thing. I didn't drink too much. And then the day after the conference, I had a stroke on an airplane. So what I think the lesson here is that, you only live once.
So I was going to say, Mark and I were extremely responsible in Vegas. Extremely responsible.
Yep. Amazingly so.
We were so responsible.
Have you had a chance to look at the schedule for Build?
No, but I have some insight into what is going on.
Tell us what do you know?
So I was chatting to Donna. I don't know how, you see, I've got to be careful here. I don't actually know how much as MVPs we can share.
Probably nothing. If it
so let's
like to be very, very clear.
Yeah.
I don't know anything.
No, I'll tell you what. Like they have been releasing some stuff on the MVP teams channels and things like that. But I think actually I'm not going to say anything because of NDA.
Listen, the schedule went live today, so
no, I haven't seen that. No, I haven't seen.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of the publicly
everything's
available
there.
information.
And what I noticed. The glaringly obvious thing that I noticed.
So are you going to call out the thing that you were talking about the other day with the platform?
No.
Mark is going to answer his own question. So Mark, what have you? Do you want me to say it in the Kiwi voice or just
go for it, man. Go for it.
No. What have you seen about Build? What are you thinking?
There was obviously a massive emphasis on AI.
Yes.
Oh, color me shocked.
What?
And I think
there's AI.
I only saw one session that covered anything relating to business apps.
Oh, wow, really?
No.
Yeah, so if you take Copilot Studio out of the mix, right? Because that's, there was one Dataverse session. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure I saw nothing but crickets in that space. In fact, there wasn't even a category selector for anything that sits under biz apps that I could see.
That's wild.
That is very interesting. I went to ColorCloud too, which was my very first conference after a long time. And I went to sessions. I love going to sessions. Sessions are great, and I recommend that anybody, when they go to a conference, just go to sessions, even though you're a speaker and you're there with your buddies. Sessions are very good. I learned something that I didn't know about how to, generate some content with AI and how AI has evolved. It was Copilot Studio in this case. It was just going away from summarizing and drafting things and actually doing stuff, right, with your information. And whilst that was really, really interesting, what was interesting to me was just how easy it is to lose track of how many things are happening with AI. And whilst the speaker was presenting that, somebody else in the audience were like, oh, and by the way, there's this new tool that came out that actually judges how good your prompt is. And it's on the App Store, on the Microsoft App Store. And it was so interesting because the speaker were like, oh, okay, interesting. Let's have a look. And her prompt was actually very good, like 90%, rated 90%. So clearly she had experience. But what I'm trying to say is that there are so many things going on right now and coming up that how do people even select what they want to learn next, or where to go, or how not to fall behind. And your hint with, by the way, there are no more these apps sessions that build, means people stop it with rewriting business rules into JavaScript and crap like that. Just look at what's important, start really learning what the world is about right now, because you will lose your job. Somebody will come and build those things properly after they've seen the sessions at Build, or like at conferences or whatever. And that doesn't mean that AI took your job. It means that you were not good enough to keep it. I'm sorry, I don't know how else to say it.
I agree.
I totally agree. And there's a couple of things that I've seen in the last week, right, that totally support this thesis. And if you're a longtime listener, this is not the first time you've heard us talking about this. I feel like we could not have a larger megaphone to tell business apps folks that the world has moved on from what it is you do, and you need to move on with it if you want to, stay in this space. So, one thing that I saw last week was at the promptathon that Chris and others hosted at ColorCloud on the Thursday, was the winning team built an entire app without actually doing any app development. They just, and Chris, keep me honest on this if I'm wrong, right? But they built an entire app using prompts, right? With AI actually building the app, right? Which I think was it's still very early days for that capability and for that technology, but I think it is certainly a sign of things to come. Also, last week I had a chat with a friend of mine who is the CEO of a Microsoft partner. It is a sizable Microsoft partner, not just one sitting in a single country. He's one of the, I think, the more forward-thinking leaders within the Microsoft space and within business apps in particular. The company that he leads is really very much associated with Dynamics, and that's their historical legacy. And he was telling me, listen, it is time to move on. Dynamics and business apps, the old world is dying, and he is very, very proactively trying to move his company into this new world. So I just think that look at the build schedule. Look at what Chris and company did at the Promptathon last week. Listen to my CEO friend and listen to the Ecosystems podcast. We could not be telling you more clearly that, Mark, can we get a what's dead? What's dead?
Oh, I don't want to say it, right? As in, I don't want to say it. But here's the thing. Here's something that, and I'm pleased, Anna, you indexed heavily on this, is that I look at it like this. AI is not coming for your job, but capitalist is, right? A capitalist is coming for your job, right? And they're going to use technology to enable it. Now, one of the sessions, BRK148 on the build schedule, is building the digital workforce.
Right.
If you don't know what a digital workforce is, Google it.
It's not you.
Because you'll see a digital workforce doesn't breathe oxygen and it doesn't have blood pumping through its veins. It's digital. And Microsoft, I believe, in the next 6 months, you're going to hear this phrase, and this is why I look for it on Build, and there it was, digital workforce. You're going to see a massive index on this phrase and it be used more and more. I researched today on IBM's website. They're talking about digital workforces. Google are talking about digital workforces.
Are you sure IBM didn't call it the Watson workforce?
No, that is digital workforce, right? And so what's becoming very clear is that I think the big tech companies are maybe not going to shy away from going after jobs like never before. And one of the stories I've heard behind it, there's a lot of smart people and businesses that leave because they get sick of, and this actually came out of the IBM report that I read, they get sick of the drudge work that they do and non-innovative work. And so the whole idea is that if you can have a digital worker take over the drudge work, you're more likely to keep these employees, as in that are, higher value to the organization. Now, the second thing that I came across today was a post that Meg shared on LinkedIn from a lady called Senad Bovell. She's the Way founder, futurist, and strategist, foresight advisor, New York based. But she had this carousel, and the header was, AI is coming for the unmotivated.
Oh, beautiful.
And I'm like,
yes.
that is gold, right? That is when I read it, it just kind of so resonated with me strongly.
Yeah.
Is that people are taking AI as like, oh yeah, I'm not really into it, or yeah, I've done a few prompts. But I tell you, I've been indexing heavily on the O3 model from ChatGPT of late. And honestly, and the reason I got onto it is because a number of people saying, are we getting to super intelligence now? Because in front of you, it will go off. It'll go and write Python scripts. It'll go and access resources. It'll develop stuff just to come back and get your answer. I've had a single prompt that I've created that has run for over 30 minutes before it gave me the answers. And the answers were just mount your face off, detailed, referenceable. Oh my gosh. And the thing is that I think there's so many people probably haven't even looked at the O3 model, not doing it, not drilling into its capabilities and what it can do to really enhance. I feel like in the last 2 weeks, I have been probably 3 to 4 times more efficient and productive in what I can do because of using these really advanced features now in AI models. And Satya had this quote that I heard that it came from, he was presenting in Italy, that says, you cannot get fit by watching somebody else work out in the gym.
No.
And I think it's so applies to AI.
I've got to bail. So that is a good point. I'm going to put something on LinkedIn about that, but AI is coming for the unmotivated. So thank you. I'm stealing that.
I love it.
All right. Cheers, guys. I'll see you later.
Chris has a call. We can finish up here. See you, Chris.
Later.
So I just want to say just one thing with regards to that. I think that's totally true. And not drilling into these capabilities, and it doesn't necessarily need to be, the GPT model right now. It can be whatever you want, right? It can be around how AI works, and it can be around sustainability in AI, and it can be like programming. I don't know, with the GitHub Copilot, or it can be anything you want. There are many, many, many options, right? But if you do not do it, then you have 2 options. Either the digital worker will do, the grunt work, so all of the copy pasting, it's just gonna go away. It's just gonna get better and better and better, right? Or you still have your job because you've been there for like 20 years and only you know a process, or we all know like a process like that, right? Held together by somebody who knows just that Excel. And you'll be allowed to hold on to it, and then you'll be given all of the other grunt work that the digital worker still hasn't done yet, but you'll have no team. And it's going to be a pretty miserable experience, pretty much grounded in fear that you are going to lose your job.
Yeah.
So just look at some stuff, is what I'm saying.
And
I'm a ray in sunshine today, aren't I?
No, the thing is, I'm like fully on board. Like, this is wake up call, I feel, time that people really need to double down on learning. Like another Satya quote, have a learn it all mentality. You need to be learning this stuff. You need to, you can.
I've been thinking about this a lot lately, that we're facing, and it's funny how, all joking aside about the, me getting €100 and putting it in my suitcase for the next time the power goes out, right? All joking aside about that, one of the things that when Anna and I were reflecting on the power outage the other day, we were saying how what uncertain times we live in, right? Certainly I grew up in America, right? So I was very fortunate to not have to live in terribly uncertain times. Anna was born in communist Romania, so had to live in very uncertain times earlier in her life. But certainly these are the most uncertain times of any of our adult lives. I would say.
Totally.
And one of the things that I am observing across so many contexts, right, across work and AI and what people need to learn or what organizations need to become and what nations need to do, not even apart from AI, what Europe needs to do in order to be self-sufficient and able to defend itself, what Democrats in America need to do in order to, reclaim part of the electorate that they've lost, right? Like across the world and in so many different contexts, I think that we are right now suffering from a lack of tragic imagination, from a lack of honesty with ourselves and with others about the enormity of the challenges and the tasks that we face, right? So when, at least, for me, and I think I speak for all of us, when we're on this show or when we're at a conference or when we're in any sort of space where we are advising technologists, advising our peers throughout the industry as to where they need to go in order to survive and thrive, when I'm advising clients and working with clients and really giving them some tough love on what you are doing is a road to failure, right? The world needs right now, I think, a combination of tragic imagination and ingenuity in order to survive and thrive. So we're not cheering for the demise of any particular industry or discipline or set of knowledge or on and it goes. We are simply, in my opinion, trying to recognize and be forthright about the enormity of the challenges we face and the enormity of the effort required. You have to be motivated. AI is coming for the unmotivated.
Yeah.
About that, I have another story if we've got time.
We've got time.
If not, so we were in Brasov, looking at an office, and right in the city center. So we were just in a co-working space, was looking for an office, and I had to translate some legal documents for some procedures that we have to do in the EU.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to this translator's office, and I go in, and there's just one guy in the huge, massive office right in the center of town, with like mahogany desks and like files neatly stored, and that sort of situation. I sit down and I give him my documents, and I was like, "Oh, you're not very busy today." He's like, "I assume it's after Easter." He's like, "Wrong. People just don't want to come to work anymore, and also most organizations we had an agreement with, they all want automatic translations, and we just correct them, which means half the money and like double the work to make sure everything's right. And right now there's AI as well that can potentially do some of those corrections as well, probably. So what we're really dealing here is information communism. I'm like, okay, interesting concept. What do you mean? He's like, well, all of the translations that we've done manually over the years, they're all recorded, right? So they're in some cloud somewhere. And then these new models are being trained on the work, on our work, right? That has been validated and peer reviewed. I think it would be correct that I get, a percentage of that income, like if I was writing a book, because that's my, that's my asset. And I'm like, okay. In interesting situation and dilemma, I guess. Here are my papers, right? I had two, like birth certificate, marriage certificate, nothing rocket science. Can they be done, by tonight? And he's like, oh, it's already midday. These are going to have to be done manually. And like, I know I could do them manually for you right now, and you just peer review them if you want to, or like put your stamp. But he's like, no, it's going to take until Friday because we need to take it to the notary for them to put their stamp on it. And I'm like, okay, interesting. So you have this situation where a person claims that AI and automatic translation is thinking their job and their business with their big, massive office in the center of town, complaining by the fact that people don't come into work, or their biggest thing was that they were using Google or the AI themselves to do the manual translations, and how that's very, very bad, but we're in information communism and things are taken away from me. So this is how some people view these things. And by the way, I did not have that papers until Friday. I had to send an email and threaten and stuff like that because we needed those documents back.
Yeah.
So this is where AI is coming from, the unmotivated, the person who's thinking that that something is being taken away from them, instead of just like, selling those desks, putting some good laptops in, and doing their job but better. So that was just an example, that I had real life.
It's a brilliant example. And the thing is that I think that would be repeated all over the world in so many offices and so many locations, is that I think the days of doing unintelligent work are going to go away. So in other words, if you don't really need to think about what you're doing and stuff, it's obviously a digital worker is going to take that role, right? Humans are going to be used for the stuff that the edge cases that the digital worker can't do. Right. And so I think that anybody that's in really mundane, repetitive-based jobs, it's a no-brainer. Unless you're going to reskill, you're not going to have a job.
If you're checking invoices, don't do that.
Yeah. Awesome. It's been good chatting with you guys. Our time is up. Surprisingly, Mr. Dorrington was going to join us, but he is obviously not been able to get away from his meeting. Hey, thanks everybody. Feel free to drop us a message if there's something you'd like us to talk about specifically on the show in the future.
Thanks everyone. Bye guys.
Bye.
Bye.